1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to 31 Days of Horror. Day number 31! Yay, we made it!
We made it!
As you can hear, Honeybee is with me for this
Hi.
final day of our marathon.
What's up, motherfuckers?
As we've been plugging all month, we're going to be discussing Halloween Ends, to which I say, do you promise? Do you swear?
I saw this meme the other day, and it was like, Jamie Lee Curtis has one more chance, or I'm gonna handle Michael my damn self. She gets one more movie, and that's it.
I saw her on Jimmy Kimmel on YouTube, and he had her sign a document swearing that she would not be in any more Halloween movies ever.
Oh my
He
gosh.
was like, you say this is the last one. Are you willing to put that in writing?
Oh my gosh, wow.
He pulled out a scroll that was like, I, Jamie Lee Curtis, daughter of Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, do hereby swear and affirm that I will
Oh
never
my
again
God.
appear in a Halloween movie. So help me God, Baba Booey.
It. Wow.
Yeah, so there you go.
There you go. But I don't know, because like it kind of like started a whole nother storyline.
I wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years they just do a remake,
Oh yeah.
but we will get to it. But this version is completely done. I can't imagine Jamie Lee doing another one, at least not as this character. Maybe just a cameo.
I didn't think it would be her. I thought it would be like her granddaughter and maybe the douchey boyfriend or whatever. Like I just thought it was like open to being able to. Well, yeah, but neither does Michael every fucking movie.
Right.
So who cares if he didn't make it?
Well, that seemed like maybe what they were going for, but then it seemed like no, they weren't going for that. So who knows? But
Yeah, that's true.
I can see them just doing a complete remake / reboot in 10 years. There's not gonna be anything next year.
Nice.
Personally, I'd just like to see something new. Let's get into some stats. It came out this month
Yeah.
on the 14th. It's in color. It is 111 minutes, directed by David
Hey.
Gordon Green, as the last two were, based on characters by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. The budget was $33 million. The box office was $82.4 million. And Honeybee, we're going to have a special interview later
Ooh,
with
ooh.
we have an inside scoop. My brother knows a guy. I got a guy. He knows a guy.
Someone
Justin
from the
Paul Warren.
inside.
That's right. Guy named Justin Paul Warren, who actually worked on the film. He did color correction, but these days that is done in like real time on the set. So he
Oh
was
wow,
there.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
He was there while they were filming part of it. But I'll save that for the interview.
Score.
Yeah. So we'll talk to him in a little bit, but first we're going to go over this movie some. Those are all so the budget was, did I say 33 million?
Yeah.
Box office so far is 82.4 million. It's still playing. So it might end up being more than that. I saw a headline that said, yes, it's also on Peacock, which is how I watched it.
Nice. I went to the theater.
I saw some headlines saying that it was the lowest box office of these three movies, but it's still playing. So,
Yeah.
but still, that's 82.4. That's not
yeah,
bad.
That's doing pretty well.
Worth the effort.
Considering it's only been out for a few weeks. Because
It stars, of
Halloween
course.
today.
It stars, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode.
Shout out.
Andy
Laurie!
Matichak as Allison Nelson, Laurie's granddaughter. We saw her in the previous two movies. Will Patton as Deputy Frank Hawkins, a sheriff's deputy who arrested Michael following his initial killing spree in 78. Rowan Campbell as Corey Cunningham. Eesh. Kyle Richards as Lindsay Wallace, one of the children Laurie babysat in 1978. James Jude Courtney as Michael Myers / The Shape.
Whoa.
And Nick Castle, who portrayed the character in the original 1978 film, provides voiceover work for Myers' breathing and makes an unrelated cameo appearance in a party scene.
Nice. They're like, can we get Michael's breath in here? I need to shoot this scene.
I think that might have just been a little thing so they could say that he played Michael again. And there's a bunch of other people, but we don't care about them.
Wah wah.
Honeybee, what were your initial impressions of the movie?
Well, I'm going to say that my expectations of the movie were very, set at the last movie, right? So, last year, that movie, that's kind of where my expectations were, I was kind of feeling it was going to be on somewhere along that line. And I was taken for a fucking ride because I did not realize that this movie was not going to be like that at all.
It really wasn't.
Completely different. And I know as I was watching it, me and Gus went and saw it in the theater. We were the only people in the whole theater. We went in the middle of the day. And so we could talk as loud as we wanted. And it was just so much fun. It was super fun, which kind of made the experience for me too. I enjoyed it so much. But also, I knew, the whole movie, I was like, oh, God, I just know Precious is so pissed off right now. I just felt like you were going to hate it so much. And
well, for me to be pissed off about it, I would have to give a shit.
Okay. So maybe you just don't give a shit enough.
I don't give a shit about Michael Myers or Halloween.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I was never, it wasn't until we did 31 Days of Horror that because I had seen the original movie, from the 70s, maybe once before when I was super young. But then Michael Myers was never, something that I was into. I was more of a, It, Captain Spaulding kind of horror movie. I was a clowns kind of fan. So I never liked, Halloween or Freddy Krueger or any of those things. Kind of the, classics. So this was kind of, last year was really, the first time where I kind of gave a shit. And I feel like that sort of gave me an advantage because I don't really care about the story or I don't really know the storyline or whatever, that it changing so drastically for this final film, I really enjoyed. I loved all of the shocking, what the fuck is going on right now ness of the movie. So it really reminds me of our regular show where people have grown up with these movies. People who listen to our podcast probably have seen the movies that we're reviewing. They've seen them, they saw them when they came out, or they've seen them since then. Whereas for me, it's the first time that I'm seeing them. So I'm not as emotionally attached or attached in a certain way to the story. So it's easier for me not to hate it. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I kind of feel the same way about how the Halloween story is I'm not really connected to it. Or like you said, I don't give a shit really about the original details or, any of that. It's just not one of my things. So I know the movie got a lot of backlash. I know it did. But I really, really loved it. The really shock and awe factor of me for me, how different it was from the other movie. It just really it was insane. And I my first impressions of the movie were complete shock. It was such a ride. I was so confused of oh my, what is happening so much? But it was so fun and so entertaining. I would also say, that's really it. It's just the shock and awe for me. My initial thoughts are the shock of the things that happened in this movie really kept me going. And because I'm not so emotionally attached to the Halloween story, I really loved it. I could see why people hated it and didn't like the changes. But I even read an article about John Carpenter giving David Gordon Green's ideas about the movie, the go ahead, that he really like he wasn't against it, you know? So that even made me feel better about it too, is like this guy made these characters. Like if he's cool with these kind of like going in these weird directions, then I don't know. I feel like I should be too, I guess. I don't know. I loved it.
I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. But I
Okay,
know the
I'm
internet is
surprised.
mad.
The internet is
The internet
so
is
mad.
mad, and I do understand why.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not sure that the final chapter is the time to start experimenting. Which is what they were doing. They should have
Yeah.
done this shit in the previous film.
Uh-huh.
And some of the stuff that happened in the last one should have happened in this one. And it did seem like they were maybe setting it up for a new Michael, but then that doesn't happen. So I don't know what the fuck they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand that Carpenter and what's his name?
Green.
David Gordon Green. They're storytellers and filmmakers. They're not a bunch of fanboys.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily give a shit about what the fans want. And what the
You
fans
heard.
want isn't always what they need or deserve.
You heard it here first, folks. We are available to be canceled at any point.
On the other hand, you are making a product that you want people to spend their money on. So
Yeah.
if you maybe have a clue that you might piss off your customer base, maybe make an adjustment.
Well, I saw there was
Which
an
I
entire
think-
petition for him to reshoot the entire movie.
Which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Like, fuck
Yeah,
off.
it's not gonna-
internet.
I don't know who they did the same goddamn thing with Star Wars, and I don't know who these assholes think they are, but there is no way a studio or a director is going to say, you know what, you're right. I'm just going to spend
Well, because
$40 million.
no matter how many people, no matter how many people say like, "Oh, I fucking hated it," refilm it. There's going to be
Yeah.
a million other people on the other side saying like, "Oh, what a great idea! I really liked that." So, shove your petition up your ass, internet.
Yeah, people were so upset about what happened, what was done to Luke Skywalker, and we demand a reshoot. No. And you know what? You're free to ignore it, just like I ignore those prequels.
Yeah.
Star Wars doesn't care about canon, and neither should you. But that is an entire another podcast.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally.
We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll be back with our interview. Folks, we have a special guest with us here today for our final episode of 31 Days of Horror, Mr. Justin Paul Warren. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hey, thank you for having me here, Precious.
So, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself
Okay.
and what it is you do?
Well, I'm a filmmaker that lives in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm originally from Texas, which is how I got to know you today through your brother Gabriel, because he and I used to make movies together back in the day. I've been a independent film director of short films and music videos and commercials for a while, but I also work in the film industry as what's called a digital imaging technician, a DIT for short. I've been doing that for about 13 years now, and I've gotten to work on some pretty exciting projects, one of them of which is the latest Halloween movie that's in theaters right now.
Yes, which is why we asked you here today.
Yeah.
My partner, Honeybee, and I are going to do a little overview and review of the movie.
Okay.
But we thought it'd be really cool to talk to somebody who actually worked on it. So tell us a little bit about what it is you did on the movie.
I was only there for part of it. I gotta say, I wasn't there for the whole thing, but I was there for the finale of the movie, which was really exciting. So I got to be there for, am I allowed to talk about certain scenes from the movie?
Yes, we issued or will issue a spoiler alert at the beginning. We always spoil the movies, but when we do a more recent one, we want to give everyone a warning. But it came out on the 14th, so people have had enough time.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be listening to this episode if you haven't watched it yet. So go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Spoil away.
All right. Okay, cool. I was there for the fight in the kitchen between Michael Myers and Laurie, and especially when Allison came back in and grabbed his arm and broke it. And
Right.
And then I was there for the entire for every other scene that took place afterwards that was with the motorcade of all of Haddonfield gathering together and following the car with Michael Myers tied to the top of it,
Right.
following to the junkyard, and then shredding Michael Myers apart in the shredder,
They,
which was an amazing thing to stand there and witness. I mean, I gotta say, like, that was emotional, man. It was powerful. And I mean, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about the movie. It's a very polarizing movie right now, mostly because people didn't think that Michael Myers had enough screen time and that he wasn't powerful enough in the movie and everything. But regardless of what you feel about that, I think everyone can agree that that motorcade scene at the end and the finale of grinding him in that meat grinder, in that trash metal grinder, was powerful. And I thought that the story had really good closure for Laurie Strode, which has been, in my opinion, the most iconic heroine in horror film history, next to maybe Janet Leigh in Psycho, played by her own mother. But that's not really a heroine because she was a victim and died halfway through the movie.
right.
But what I did on the movie was, like I said, I'm a digital imaging technician. I am the person who works as the bridge between the production and the post-production. It is my responsibility to help make sure that the look of the film is being captured for the cinematographer the way that he or she wants it to be. That includes making sure that everything is exposed right and making sure that everything is color corrected to look the way that he or she wants it to look. And in this regard, on Halloween Ends, because I was just there for the finale, I had to reference what the previous DIT was doing for all of the material that he shot for principal photography and honor that, but also honor what the new DP wanted, which was to both honor what we did in principal photography and to make sure that we were honoring the original Halloween. So I feel that Halloween Ends really did honor the original Halloween quite well. And I think that story-wise it did, and visually it did too. So the cameras would plug into my system that I built myself. It's a video cart with all kinds of gadgets and gizmos on it. And I color correct on the fly live the image coming into me and adjust the camera settings remotely at my station. And basically, it's the cinematography central station of the show is my cart. So it's a fun job. And I had a blast there. This was actually my third film to do with director David Gordon Green. I've worked on a couple of movies with him in the past in Texas, back when I lived in Texas, and that was how I got to do the project, because he remembered me, and so did the DP, because David always likes to work with the same people every time. And after I moved to Atlanta, we kind of lost track of each other. But him coming to Georgia for Halloween Ends was something that kind of brought us back together. And I'm really happy to say that I'll be joining him on his next project, which is the really big budget reboot of The Exorcist. And I'll be doing the entire movie of that.
Oh, okay. You mentioned was there more than one DP on here, or was it like a first unit, second unit?
There were two DPs because there was
that's director of photography for you not film experts out there.
Yeah, there were two. There might have even technically been three because there was a second unit as well. But that's very common. Yeah, the main DP, his name is Michael Simmons, who I might actually be meeting this week, or I will be meeting this week, but I might be meeting him as soon as tomorrow for Exorcist. I'm excited about meeting him. But I was on what's called the finale unit in the movie. Which is kind of funny, but they reshot the ending of the movie and they added the whole motorcade and everything. Like originally, it was much more anticlimactic.
Okay.
I saw the stills of the principal photography of what the original ending was, and in the original ending, Allison didn't come back in to help Laurie in the kitchen battle, and Laurie just kills him, and then they cremate the body and she types her memoir, and that's it. Like the movie's over. So everything that I got to do was to like amp up the ending and have the
Okay.
town and have Haddonfield get involved, which was really cool. Yeah, the principal photography was done by Michael Simmons, and the finale unit was done by Eric Tremmel. And Eric's a very talented man that I've worked with a bunch. That was how I was able to get the job, was because David and Eric knew me.
I see.
And then they introduced me to Michael through some emails and phone calls, and he agreed to bring me on for Exorcist. So I start that tomorrow.
Wow. That's great.
I'm very
That is
excited.
great. So by the time this is aired, folks, he will have already started. So
Yeah,
good luck with that.
thanks.
I was looking through some of your filmography here. You did some work on Powerpuff. That's not out yet. That is in pre-production.
I did work on that, and I don't think that's ever going to come out.
Oh, it just says pre-production here, and there's some still photos.
We shot a pilot for it, and like over a year ago.
Oh,
and-
yeah, it says 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, if you were to Google it, you could find some information about the three actresses that we had playing the girls, and Chloe Bennett, who played Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Daisy Johnson was her character name. She quit. She thought it was terrible, and she quit. And at least that's the impression I got. But I mean, you can find articles on the internet that she quit. And why else would she quit other than thinking it was bad?
Right.
But I mean, I read the script, and it definitely changed a lot about the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, this is a adult live action Powerpuff Girls sequel.
Yes. Yes, it was. And yes, it was very awkward.
Was the tone adult?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. So they're not just grown up, but they're having a grown up attitude.
They're having a grown-up attitude. They're drinking. Buttercup's a lesbian.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
it was just weird.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can honestly be surprised that Buttercup's a lesbian.
Yeah,
But
I don't
think
think that's surprising either. But
I don't think anybody though needs or wants to see them drinking or necessarily hear any details about their sexuality one way or the other.
yes, exactly. Like, who cares? And just let it be. Like,
Yeah.
you know, these are cartoon characters. We don't need to do all that. Like, there's a lot of
Mhm.
controversy going on around right now about Velma from Scooby-Doo being a lesbian. And I mean, I think that's fine. I think everybody saw that one coming too.
I haven't watched it yet. It's not free yet.
Right. Yeah.
I'll see it when it's free.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, she's definitely been straight in other versions, and in most versions, it just doesn't come up because it's a kid's cartoon.
exactly.
That's not why we're here.
No, that's not why we're here. Yeah, so I worked on Powerpuff, and it was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think
Okay.
I don't think they're going to ever finish that.
All right. Well, I was curious about that, but maybe a bootleg will show up on the interwebs, or it's
Yeah,
already
maybe.
there if you know where to look. Yeah, years ago there was a Wonder Woman pilot that got canceled, but I was able to download the
Oh,
pilot
you found
before it
Wonder
disappeared.
Woman. That's cool.
Yeah, it was not good. No, Warner Brothers took one look at it and said, "Nope, shut it down."
Yeah, just like the Batgirl movie recently.
I haven't seen. They were absolutely right to do it with this Wonder Woman pilot. I have no idea if they were right to do it with this Batgirl movie. It does seem a shame
It
that
feels like a
people
real
won't get to see it.
to lose the Batgirl movie because it had Michael
Yeah.
Keaton, and it was like a $90 million movie.
Well, I'm a big DC guy, but I have not been happy with a lot of their live action stuff.
Mhm.
So I can believe that somebody just took a look at it and said, "Oh no, this is terrible," because they've done a lot of terrible stuff.
They've done a lot of
Recently.
bad stuff, but I mean, some of their stuff's been good.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about one of the things
Okay.
that's on your resume of all the recent live action DC TV shows. Stargirl is the best, and I see that you did a little bit of work on Stargirl.
Yeah, I did most of the first season of Stargirl, and I had an amazing experience working on that show. And And I worked on it for, like the majority of the first season. I didn't get fired or anything. I just left to go back to Black Lightning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew Gabriel had mentioned you worked on Black Lightning. I've only seen a little bit of that. I'll catch up at some point.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did every season of Black Lightning, 4 years of it. And that job changed my life.
Wow.
It's what kind of established me here in Atlanta and helped me get a career going for myself out here after moving here on a leap of faith, really, that I took. One of the DPs of an old show that I worked on in Texas had seen on Facebook that I had moved to Atlanta. And he's like, hey, I actually have a show coming up in Atlanta. Would you like to be my DIT? And I was like, oh my God, yes. I just moved here, and a couple of shows that I had been promised to get had moved to other states. And so I moved here on a leap of faith, and then all the jobs that I had went away. And I was like, oh my God, I got nothing. This is terrible. But I did Black Lightning, and I did it for 4 years. After the second season of Black Lightning, I went to go do Stargirl. And Stargirl was a very ambitious production. Season 1 was back when it was working, when it was going to be playing on DC Universe, back when that was actually a network.
Yes. Yep.
And so this was...
I paid for that.
Yep, I did too.
I'm still paying for it.
Yeah, for DC Universe Ultimate, which is now only comic books.
Which is less, How do you call it Ultimate when it's less material than the previous version?
It drives me crazy. But this was a bit. The first season was a big budget production. Like, I'm talking $11 million per episode, probably.
Wow.
And that's a lot. I mean, nowadays you've got things like Stranger Things, which, season 4 had like $30 million per episode, which is insane. It's insane. But
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, TV is really experiencing a new renaissance of what it is and what it can do and how much money they can put into it. I mean, I don't know how you track how much you make in streaming revenue, but I mean, clearly it's profitable.
Right.
But it wasn't for TV. Unfortunately.
I feel like if you're spending that much though, that you might be wasting some.
You've got to be. You got to be.
Like when you have a small budget, you're forced to be efficient and to make the most with what you've got. Yeah. And when the budget's unlimited, I think there's a tendency to just not care. Yeah. Like, yeah, sure, whatever, do whatever. We got the money.
Right. But I mean, I really liked my time on Stargirl. Jeff Johns, the creator of the show and the president of DC, is a really cool dude. And the cast, Breck Bassinger, and everyone else on the show, Luke Wilson and all of them, they're really nice people. If I could ever work with them again, I totally would. As a matter of fact, I kind of feel like leaving Stargirl on the 8th episode of season 1 to go back to Black Lightning, like, really hurt. But I needed to go back to Black Lightning. Black Lightning was my bread and butter, and it was the show that got me started here in Atlanta. So it ended up being a good call for me. I ended up giving the show to my second unit DIT, who then took over on season 1 and did season 2 and did season 3. And I don't know if it's going to get a 4th season or not. Nobody knows yet. Hasn't been announced.
Well, I think it's only 7 episodes into season 3.
Okay.
I didn't realize season 3 had started, so I have to catch up.
Oh, okay.
Just today when I was looking things up, I was like, oh, wait, it started. I need to go watch it.
Oh,
so I know
okay.
what I'm doing this week.
Yeah, oh, right on.
Well, I only watched a little bit of Black Lightning, so I don't have any big thoughts about it, but
that's okay.
I'll go now that it's wrapped, it's easier for me to catch up.
Yeah. It's all on Netflix.
I think the biggest thing about Stargirl, though, more than the budget or any of that, is that they got the guy who created the comic book to work on the show.
Yeah.
So that is maybe a hint that other people doing comic book shows should take.
Yeah.
Get the people that actually worked on the comic book to work with you.
He's a cool guy, too. He's very passionate and very, very hands-on with the show. I mean, I've seen a lot of lazy showrunners. I'm not going to name any names, but a lot of them don't even ever show up to set, and they just watch the dailies and will chime in about their thoughts. But like Jeff Johns was there on set every single day, and he was not lazy at all. He was always going like, do you see that prop right there? That prop is Green Lantern's lantern, and we have to establish it, and we have to give it a hero shot because it is very important. It's going to be in the next season, and or things like that. And he was always like that, and always had lots of energy, and was really positive, and wanted everybody to catch on to the kind of vibe that he was going with for Stargirl. I remember before season 1 started, he rented out the local Plaza movie theater, which is kind of like in Texas. You guys have got the Alamo Draft Houses, and those are like repertory movie theaters that do like vintage showings of like old 35 millimeter prints and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got the Plaza out here, and he rented it out and did a screening of Back to the Future. And he was like, this is the kind of vibe I want for Stargirl, is like this old Americana like vibe, and you can feel that all over Stargirl. It's very classic Amblin entertainment, and it's a really good show.
Okay, folks, this is now a Stargirl podcast, so
I know, right?
Join us here tomorrow when we go over scene by scene episode 1. We'll compare it with issue 1 of the comic book.
Yeah, let's get back to
and we'll have Breck Bassinger on as a guest. No, that is all on me, man. I turned it into the Stargirl podcast.
That's okay. But let's get back to horror movies and stuff.
Yeah, you do a lot of stuff on the fly now, you say. Just there on set.
Well, it's live color correction.
In the old days, it would be on film, and you wouldn't know until you developed it if you what
exactly
needed to be done.
You're exactly right.
Now that things are digital, you can just tweak it as you go.
You're exactly right. See, the thing is like when nowadays there's so much content being made, and it's really almost out of control how much content is being created now. It's hard for viewers to keep up. So much is being done so quickly that it's difficult for a cinematographer to even be present in the color grading room during the final DI, as we call it, digital intermediate, of a film. Because he's already on his next project shooting it while that movie's being finalized, or TV show, or whatever it is. So it's really up to him and his DIT to come up with the look of the show right there as it's being shot. That's kind of a high pressure job, but it's really fun. And you get to be you get to be creative, you get to be technical. It's a good job. I really have a lot of fun with it. And I really have a lot of fun working on horror movies, because those are the movies that you get to be really expressive with, or the superhero movies, because you get to be really creative with those too. I just really like to be stuck in like crazy genre movies. That's what I'm like intentionally trying to pigeonhole my own career. so I can work in all the genres that I wanted to watch when I was a kid. And I've gotten to do a lot of horror movies too. I don't know if you saw it, but I did Hellfest. That was a few years ago, and that was a really fun horror movie. It was really colorful. It was a movie that took place.
Was that the one that's like a Halloween amusement park?
Yes, that's what it is. And there's a real killer on the loose. Yeah, that was the movie turned out pretty good, but it was a blast to work on. And I also worked on Willy's Wonderland, which was a Nicolas Cage horror movie with
also known as One Night at Freddy's.
Right. But that was a freaking fucking great time, man. I had the time of my life working on that movie, because it was like every day was just Nicolas Cage beating up puppets. I mean, how fun is that? Yeah.
I saw that one. It was fun.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad you liked it. But yeah, I've intentionally tried to steer my career that way by, like shaking enough hands going like, hey, I really liked your movie here. I'd really like to DIT this for you. And like most of the time people just, will take the job because the paycheck sounds good, but like I'm a really like bubbly, on the surface, passionate guy, and I really have a passion for these genres, and I think that's why David Gordon Green was attracted to the idea of bringing me on for The Exorcist after we reunited on Halloween Ends. He's a bubbly, on the surface, passionate guy too, and he's really fun to work with.
Okay. All right. So before you go, do you have a favorite monster?
A favorite monster? Well, I mean, I do got to say that like Michael Myers has always been something really amazing to me, and I'm standing right next to a 6 foot tall, life-size replica of Michael Myers right now in my house. That and Pinhead from Hellraiser. I've even back when I was in high school and college, I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist, and I was Pinhead for a couple of Halloweens, and that was really cool.
Okay. Did you see the new one?
I did see the new one. Yeah. I think that there was a lot that was really great about it, but there's some things that I missed about it too.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that made the original so effective to me was the familial themes in it of family and betrayal, and Kirsty and Frank and Larry and Julia were iconic characters. They were incredible characters that Clive Barker wrote. And I don't think the new girl, Riley, and all of the other characters in the movie that I can barely remember their names. I mean, I remember there was that guy, Hoyt, who was like the rich guy who built that house that was like a trap that reminded me of 13 Ghosts. I didn't think that they were as memorable, and I didn't think that their journey or story was as interesting, because it really just seemed like the movie was all about the puzzle box this time, and the fact that it had new configurations that we hadn't seen before. And well, that was really all there was to it, was the fact that this Voight guy really wanted to get somebody to solve the puzzle box for him so he could go have eternal life, and that was about it. It had more in common with the second Hellraiser than it did with the first one in that regard, because that Voight guy reminded me of Dr. Chenard from Hellraiser 2. That being said, all of those negative things that I just said, I am a diehard Hellraiser fan, and I think this was a very good movie, and I think that the new ideas for the way that they created the Cenobites, where it was just flayed flesh as their own suits, was brilliant. And I thought the presentation of the new Pinhead, which was much closer to the Hellbound Heart novella, was also brilliant. Jamie Clayton did an excellent job, and she stole every scene that she was in. And I loved the imagery in the film, but I wanted more. I'm looking forward to a sequel if they make it.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how successful it was. It's on like Hulu, so
I know, right?
I have no idea what kind of box office we're talking about.
I don't either.
But I think like Halloween, it's getting a lot of mixed reviews. I think I've mostly seen positive stuff, but
it's got a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's cool.
Okay.
It's very uncommon for a Hellraiser
some
movie to get a fresh rating.
Oh, I did want to mention, a lot of stuff you say is being done on the fly to being done live. There's a cartoon called Super Giant Robot Brothers.
I haven't heard of that.
It's on Netflix, and they're doing the motion capture live.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so the director can actually, direct the actors live and look at how it's. I guess they do just a quick rendering, not a full rendering,
nice,
as they're filming it. I'm not clear if it's the voice actors who are also doing the motion capture or not. It seems like that'd be easiest, but you never know. So it seems like that is something, more and more things maybe are going to be doing all that technical computer stuff as they go, rather than doing it later.
It definitely is on a nonstop course of evolution that is getting faster and faster. And I mean, it's been surprising to me that it's like a race that like two different teams are like, competing against each other right now, which is like the the professional filmmaking market and the consumer market of televisions, because there are 8K televisions out right now, and that's a little crazy because like
Yeah,
we're barely even shooting 8K right now.
I just mentioned that the other day on another episode of what am I going to do with that? There's nothing to watch on it yet.
There's really not. I mean, I did just do a movie that we shot in 8K, but it's not going to be mastered in 8K.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'll be mastered in 4K at the most. And when we shot Hellfest, for example, that movie was shot in 3.4K on an Arri Mini in Open Gate. And you can go buy that movie in 4K, which means it was blown up to be 4K. So, I mean, like, we didn't even shoot it in that. Most movies aren't even shot in that, and yet you can go get them in 4K Blu-rays. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just silly to me.
Yeah, is it even actually 4K? Because it's my understanding that with digital, once you've done it, it's kind of done, and you can't really extract any more resolution out of it.
You're right about that. You can scan film infinitely to any depth you can pretty much think of. But digital is, well, I mean, it kind of is what it is, which is why they're still racing to create these higher imaging cameras right now. I mean, you know, like you've got the new Alexa 35, which is it's got great resolution and incredible dynamic range, which dynamic range means the how much the camera can see between the highlights and the shadows without like the sun blowing out or the shadows getting too crushed. It's incredible how much that camera can see, either in the light or in the dark. And to me, that's like HDR. That's high dynamic range. That's the real revolution right now with filmmaking is not how many Ks something is, but how many stops of dynamic range something has. That's been the most impressive for me as a DIT and as a movie watcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, everybody's trying to keep up with each other. You know, I very much have a job that's on the bleeding edge of technology, because half the time when you get something, it's brand new and you don't even know if it's going to work.
Right. Well, I just pre-ordered the 4K of Casablanca.
Cool.
And I remember years ago when the HD Blu-ray was coming out, thinking, what is the point of that? What does the HD mean for these old films? And then I went and looked it up, and there's a lot of definition hidden in the film, especially because of the way film's designed, that the light shines through it and then disperses it over a big screen. So there's all this definition hidden in the film that can be extracted. And as our technology gets better, we can continue to get higher resolution pictures out of that old film, whereas you can't do that with the digital. So maybe in another 10 years, I'll be buying an 8K version of Casablanca.
You very well could. And that's something that I would always love to get a crack at someday, is to be one of the color timers of preserving a new scan of an old movie. Because I'm a film collector. I own like damn near 2,000 movies, and I've even got a few movies on 35 millimeter film. And I just love film history, and I think that being able to preserve that and enhance it even is not only an honor, but I mean it's important. And these are pieces of American history that we are preserving, and it's our culture. It's what made our society, and a lot of it just gets forgotten or lost. And I consider that a tragedy when that happens. Like I was talking about earlier, I used to go to the Alamo Drafthouse in Texas a lot, and they do revival screenings of old movies that a lot of people have never even heard of before at their Weird Wednesdays and Terror Tuesdays. And that's where I started hearing about a lot of these weird movies. That was where I started to meet like 35 millimeter film collectors, and I started collecting movies along with them and everything. And that made me more passionate about my own job as a colorist. But I think a good colorist should also be a good film historian, because there's been so many technological leaps in filmmaking and in film color. We've gone from Technicolor to where we are now, and we've gone from black and white to two-strip color to Technicolor to where we are now. And there's been so many different types of film stocks and everything that are discontinued, that each have a different look and feel and color to them, that as a DIT, I often will talk to my cinematographer and say, if you were going to shoot this on film, and if I wasn't here, what kind of film stock would you have chosen to shoot this on? If they'll tell me, like, oh, I'd really love to do this on Ektachrome or on Fuji or on a Kodak Viz 3 or something like that, like, I'll be like, okay, well, let's see if we can try to emulate that for you. And I'll do my best to try to create that look. And, like on Halloween Ends, that was a throwback movie that was meant to look like it was shot on vintage Kodak film. And that was what we tried to emulate. And I even ripped my 4K Blu-ray and my previous Blu-ray of Halloween onto my system and did frame comparisons to make sure that we were matching and respecting the previous material.
Cool. Very nice. Justin, great job bringing it back around on topic.
Thank you.
After we strayed so far.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is normally a kaiju-based podcast.
Oh, kaiju. I love kaiju.
It's just Gesundheit. It's just during October that we branch out and do the 31 Days of Horror and include all kinds of other stuff.
Okay.
So if you ever work on a kaiju movie, come back and talk to us again.
Oh, right on. Well, I do have a very brief kaiju story that would be kind of cool.
Sure.
When I was working on Willy's Wonderland, Nicolas Cage is a diehard Godzilla fan. And one of my best friends out here in Atlanta, his name is Joseph Teagle. He was the on-set dresser in art department for the movie, is also a diehard Godzilla movie. I mean, the guy's got Godzilla tattoos like all over his body. And they would geek out about it every single day on set, just talking about like, oh, Nicolas Cage would be like, oh man, I love Biollante. I love Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. That was my favorite one, man. And he had this Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla jacket that was like a custom one-of-a-kind thing that was like not only really expensive, but probably priceless. And I mean, it was like shimmering with gold. And my friend Joseph was such a diehard fan of Godzilla and was like geeking out with him so much, and they became such good friends that on the last day of filming, Nick gave him his jacket as a gift. And I just thought that was like one of the sweetest, coolest things. And
wow.
It's a great Nick Cage story. It's a great Godzilla story. Anyways.
I knew we had a love of Superman in common. I did not know that we had a love of Godzilla in common.
Oh, yeah. He'll talk your ears off about it.
That is good to know. All right, folks. That's going to do it for the Justin portion of the show. So now back to me and Honeybee wrapping up Halloween Ends.
Right on. Thank you.
And we're back. Honeybee,
Welcome
let's
back.
get into the details of this thing.
Get into
Here's our
it.
summary
Yeah.
from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Thank you, Wikipedia. Oh, I've heard on a lot of your episodes, with your other interviews about you donating to Wikipedia.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a fortune, but everybody should do that.
Yeah.
Give them
Not-
$3. Keep them going. On Halloween night in 2019, 21-year-old Corey Cunningham is babysitting a young boy named Jeremy. By specifying that it's in 2019, they get to ignore COVID.
Yeah.
Good.
I was just about to say, can we just take a moment, all of us, to remember what it was like to live in October of 2019?
It was
Do
just
any of you
around the
remember
corner.
that?
We didn't know. It was right around the corner.
It was right
It was
around
probably
the corner.
already. It was probably already here, and we didn't know. It was, I think, certainly probably in China by that point.
Mm-hmm.
Ay, ay, ay. Anyway, he's Corey Cunningham is babysitting a little shit named Jeremy, who pulls a prank on Corey. So the parents are talking about how he's all upset about this. Michael Myers shit had just happened. He had just escaped in the year before, I believe, and torn shit up. So the kid's upset about that, and the parents are giving Corey a heads up. But he pulls a prank on Corey by locking him inside the attic. Just as Jeremy's parents
even before that, they're like, you can't, like, he's scared of the shit. He's scared, be careful. And then he plays an awful, scary movie for him.
Yeah, yes. What was the movie? Do you remember?
I've never seen that movie. Like, it was some weird, obscure, like, gruesome, some weird, bloody, I don't know, gory movie that I've never seen, but, like, an old one.
I think it was a real movie, though. I don't remember. Anyway, so he's doing a weird hiding thing, and then Corey goes up into the attic to look for him, and he's acting like, Michael Myers is in here and he's trying to get me. But then he locks Corey in the attic. Just as Jeremy's parents come home, Corey kicks the door open after just yelling, "I'm going to kill you." He kicks the door open and accidentally knocks Jeremy over a staircase railing to his death. He falls like two whole stories.
Shit.
He falls off the third story down 2 stories.
Yeah, this is in the first like few minutes of the movie. It's the first point in the movie where it's pure adrenaline rush that has nothing to do with like the regular story that you're used to, the Michael Myers story that you know and love, and here you are for the last movie. This has really nothing to do with it. Is it connected? Sure, but it just really is the first like shock of the movie that's like, oh my God.
It's a little bit like a James Bond movie where he takes out somebody that is not connected to the rest of the film at the beginning.
Yeah, it was the first moment of like, oh, up kids, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And instantly I was instantly hooked, like instantly in this story, like what the fuck. And I will say too, the actor who plays the babysitter in this scene, 2 things I'd like to say. 1, I got vibes that he wanted to fuck the mom, and I was like, oh, what? Okay, what's going on here? And then 2, I thought in this scene, like his acting, I was kind of like, this kid's kind of like overdoing it, and I don't know if he's like gonna be great. Like I was kind of like didn't know if I liked the acting in that scene, you know? Like, but then once the kid dies and there's kind of this like character development, I'm like, oh, okay, that's his acting was kind of like in that moment because he had to like grow into this other person. And then I felt like the guy who was the actor was actually really great. And I just he kind of like throws you off in the scene of like him being just a shit, like him like flirting with the mom, and then like him being a shitty babysitter, and just like kind of how he feels. You're like, man, this guy kind of sucked. And then when he really gets into like his character, and he is, you know, this kind of, the movie's kind of revolving around him, I felt like he really did an amazing job. And I kind of prejudged him in this scene of like, oh, I don't know if I like this guy. And I was like, oh, no, I do this guy. This guy's great.
I think another thing they were trying to do is showing the ripple effect that Michael is having on the town, that even though he's not directly responsible for this, he is indirectly responsible for creating the mood and the atmosphere that led to this. All the stuff with the kid being afraid and pretending that Michael might be in the house and all that kind of stuff. 3 years later, so we do jump to after COVID. 3 years later, the town of Haddonfield, Illinois is still reeling from the aftermath of Michael Myers' latest killing spree in 2018, while Michael has vanished. Laurie Strode is writing a memoir, having bought a new house and living with Alice and her granddaughter, who is now a nurse. And Laurie seems to be just trying to get on with her life, and I don't get why.
What I don't get is, why did she buy a house that was the exact same fucking shape and looks like the house that all of this shit happened in the 70s? Like, I was like, do they all look like this?
She should have left Haddonfield, but yes, probably most of the houses were built by the same developers who used similar floor plans. They might just turn it in the other direction.
Different. Yeah. It's like a different color and like there's a window added, but it's like the same damn shape. Like,
this house has the living room on the left and the kitchen on the right, and the house next door has the living room on the right and the kitchen on the left. They're completely different. I think there are houses like that where they just flip the floor plan and it's the same exact house. But the thing is, and I can't take credit for this observation. I was watching Pitch Meeting on YouTube.
Okay.
She spent the last 40 years training for the contingency that Michael might escape.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael does escape and is not recaptured. And then she decides to just go about her life.
That's an excellent
So that
point.
seems weird. She should be gearing up even more now that she knows he's running around loose.
Maybe it's like one of those things where like you're just so scared, or like you want something so bad and then you get that works.
She's like, I spent all that time prepping and look what good it did me. May as well just fuck it.
I'm just gonna write a fucking
Anyway,
book.
she's living with her granddaughter Allison, who is now a nurse. Meanwhile, Corey is working at his stepfather's salvage yard. We don't realize till later that it's his stepfather. On his way home one day, he is taunted by high school bullies, and as everyone has pointed out, these high school bullies are in the marching band.
Wow.
It's not the football team. It's not the basketball team. It's the marching band.
And aren't these kids like they're seniors in high school? So like presumably they're 16, 17 years old. And then isn't he like 22 or 23? I'm like,
so.
why is this grown ass man letting these teenage kids bully him?
He was 21. He was 21 3 years ago. So he's 24 now.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Well, they want him to buy them beer, and he won't. So then they start pushing him around. I guess they do have him outnumbered. Anyway, he injures himself in the process. An observing Lori brings him to the doctor's office. Well, first she runs the bullies off, and they together stab the kid's tires.
I kind of love this part. I do not.
Lori's
I would
like, do you want to do it or should I?
In real life, if this were to happen, I would be like, nah, fuck that. That's not cool. But in this moment, like them kind of bonding, because like he's the fucking wackadoodle that like killed the kid. And then she's the wackadoodle that like keeps bringing Michael Myers to everyone. So it's like they kind of bond over this like bully moment of like, yeah, like fuck this guy. Like, but in reality, it's like, dude, this is a high school kid. Like, don't fucking touch someone else's car. Like, you know, all of the things. But I really did love this moment. I love it.
So Lori, he cut his hand on the bottle, the broken bottle. Lori takes him to the doctor's office where Allison works, and as soon as they see each other, it's like da na 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 na. It's ridiculous. I swear they should have just used that music.
They should. They really should have. In most movies, I can really deal with the like stupid dance in it, but I felt like in this one, it did add to the dynamic of the storyline. So I'm gonna let it slide that there is a romance. Usually, I don't find them necessary in things like this, you know.
Right.
But I thought this one was all right because of the dynamic of like grandmother Michael Myers. This fucking weird, you know.
So Allison and Corey develop a relationship and later attend a Halloween party where Corey is confronted by Jeremy's mother. This is at the bar. I think it's the same bar that was featured in the
is she just gonna wear this Halloween costume for the rest of her life? Like she's just wearing the same costume every Halloween?
Who, the mother?
Yeah, to mourn her
I didn't
son.
notice.
Or like
what was her costume?
She was kind of like someone like in like the 20s, like with the finger wave and the like dress with the frilly, like the frilly dress,
like a flapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
After having an argument with Allison, Corey leaves the party and runs into the bullies who throw him off a bridge. He also picks up a scarecrow mask. His costume is just a cheap ass plastic scarecrow mask, just the kind that's just the front. You know, the little kid kind that's just the front of the mask with a strap on it.
You like very like breakfast.
Very what?
Breakfast at Tiffany's. They go downtown and they have those masks that are just like they put over their faces in downtown New York.
I did not remember that. I don't care for that movie.
Why? Because she's a hooker.
Is she? I thought she was just a bit of a tramp.
Is she? Well, I mean,
I didn't catch that she was a professional. I think it was.
Yeah.
I just got that she was not like a call girl exactly. Just a bit of a tramp willing to go with whoever will buy dinner, but not like,
For money, like
not like here's my hourly rate kind of.
yeah, but she even talks about her out like what she usually gets to go to the powder room, quote unquote, is 50.
Well, see, I just shut all that out. I just pushed it out of my mind because I didn't care for it.
Anyways, back to this movie.
Then let's see. Michael. Oh, so he gets dragged into the sewer and confronted by Michael, who eventually lets him go. There's some weird. They lock eyes and
Yeah, okay.
I
We
don't know,
gotta
see
talk
each
about
other's
it,
souls or
because-
some shit.
Yeah. It's like Michael's gonna kill him. Like it's like also there's a weird homeless guy like trying to feed people to Michael or some shit, which is kind of weird. But there's this weird moment
Yeah.
that they have where it's like Michael's gonna kill him, but he sees into his soul, sees his memories, and decides like, oh, you killed a kid. I feel bad for you. I don't know what really happens, but Michael decides not to kill him, and now they have brother magic powers.
Yeah, I don't know. The homeless guy does seem to be kind of like, look, I won't tell anyone you're in there if you just leave me alone, okay? If you'll be cool with me, I'll be cool with you. And, but he, doesn't tell anybody, don't go in there.
I did not gather that from the homeless guy. I thought he was like straight, like
The homeless guy knows.
devil's in there.
Oh, I don't know. I'm saying he clearly knows Michael's in there, but Michael isn't
Hmm.
bothering him.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they have some kind of understanding. What that is exactly, I don't know, but they clearly have worked out a you don't bug me, I won't bug you this kind of situation. On the way out, Corey is confronted by a homeless man. In a struggle, Corey stabs the man to death and flees. So this one is made to look kind of like an accident again. But,
Yeah,
he's
this
just
is the
twice
second time
now
he's
accidentally killed someone.
Yeah. And I think he's starting to realize like that he's never felt so alive when he is
Yeah.
and when he's
Corey
accidentally
and Allison
killing someone.
Corey and Allison go on a dinner date. He tells her, I killed someone, but she does not realize he means recently. She knows
Like,
about the
yeah, the
accident
whole
with the
town
boy.
knows. I've heard. I know everything. The whole town knows
Oh,
you
my
killed
God.
someone. You crazy pants.
Allison's ex-boyfriend, was he even? I got more the impression they just went on a couple of dates, not
Yeah,
that
I
he was
don't.
really.
I really don't know. I also got the impression that they went on just a couple of dates, but I think it's meant to be that way because it's like that they just went on a couple of dates, but that kind of adds to his like douchebag factor that
Right.
he's like, we're
Right.
ex, like we
But
were
it's-
together.
It. Well, I get the feeling that he thinks, well, we've had a couple dates and we could potentially have a couple more, as opposed to you were my boyfriend and now you are no longer my boyfriend.
I feel like he could have been her dad.
Right. It seems like well, that too, but it just seems like it's kind of
I
up
was
in
like,
the air.
ew,
There
what?
hasn't been an actual right. There hasn't been an actual breakup because there was never an actual being together. It's still,
Mhm.
hey, when are we going to go out again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the whatever he is a police officer, Doug Mullaney, and he shows up and harasses them both. Corey later lures the cop into the sewer. Michael emerges and kills Doug to Corey's delight. Allison is passed over for promotion at work, speaking of prostitutes, in favor of a fellow nurse who is having an affair with the doctor. So, yeah, she is not technically a prostitute, but she is using sex to get the things she wants. So Corey then kills the doctor at his home while the nurse is killed by Michael, and Corey is wearing the scarecrow mask at this point.
Yeah, so like this is weird because I'm like, oh wait, so now they're killing together. But he kind of has this moment where Corey has this moment where he's like, show me how to do it. Like he literally says that, show me. And then Michael, like goes ham and like kills, like slices the prostitute, like slams her, knifes her to the wall, and the nurse, right? Sorry. Sex work is real work, okay? I no judgment
It
here.
is, but she's mixing it with her nurse work, and that's maybe not appropriate.
True.
She's using it to get an unfair advantage. But let me go back a minute though. When Michael's been living in this cave and he seems very weak,
Mm-hmm.
And when he kills the policeman, it's like he sort of straightens up, and it's like he gets a surge of power. And that, together with the eye lock thing earlier, sort of hints at something kind of supernatural going on, but they don't go all the way with it.
Right.
But the thing is, this is one of the things that is pissed off the internet and that I do have questions about.
I definitely have questions.
At the end of the last movie, Michael was just an unstoppable killing machine.
Mm-hmm.
He takes on a whole mob of people by himself. And in that scene, it does kind of seem like he gets strong. The more people he kills, the stronger he gets, because they sort of get the jump on him, but then he starts killing them and just kills more and more of them. And then he just goes and hides in a tunnel for 3 years.
Yeah.
And loses all of his mojo because he hasn't been killing anybody. He just seems so weak in this movie when he was so strong at the end of the other one. And I haven't kept a running count, but in this continuity anyway, that scene was probably the most people he's killed at one time.
Yeah, for sure.
In the original movie, he kills 3 people that we see and kills 1 or 2 more off camera, which is not that many. But he kills like somewhere between 10 and 20 people in the last scene. Never mind all the people leading up to that scene. And that movie is still the same night as the previous movie. So he's got all of those people. And now he's just living in a hole. And his kill count in this movie is pretty low. It's
yeah,
like
because Homeboy is doing most of the killing.
Again,
the
it's
other
like
kid.
3 people maybe? I don't know. Anyway, but he does seem to get some energy when he kills the cop. Let's see. Corey kills the doctor in his home while the nurse is killed by Michael. An unknowing Allison plans to leave Haddonfield with an insistent Corey because of the past trauma, while Laurie becomes increasingly suspicious of Corey. After finding him sleeping in the spot Jeremy died, Laurie offers to help him on the condition that he distance himself from Allison, which she set up that whole thing to begin with.
Yeah.
But what the
But
hell?
he hadn't gone banana
He does-
sandwich yet. Like he was still like
Right.
kind of a normal. He had just had
He
the
does
one
say
accidental death.
Right. He does tell her, you invited me in, like he's a vampire or something. Corey retorts by blaming her for the events that have occurred in Haddonfield and says if he cannot have Allison, no one will. Other people in town blame her too. A couple people accuse her of taunting Michael. I don't think that ever happened. I don't know what story.
No,
I mean, yes,
I
Michael's fixated on her.
right. I think that's literally just like people, you know, like internet people. Like that's just representing like people like thinking they know the whole story or thinking that they
Right.
know what happened just because of whatever. And also, while we're here, when those people in the parking lot kind of blame Lori, they have that confrontation. That woman that's like paralyzed is the woman from the previous movie with the husband,
Yes,
her husband,
who
and
we assumed
died.
she was dead. But
Yeah.
yes, well, sometimes people go through a lot and manage to survive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does seem like some of the people that he attacked over the years would have actually survived. So that was a nice, interesting touch.
It was. I liked it.
On October 31st, Corey returns to the sewers and successfully fights Michael for his mask. Again, Michael, very weak. If he's he's still like a foot or 2 taller than this kid. But on the other hand, he's 70 years old?
Yes, yeah.
He gets Michael's
Never
mask.
slowed him
Meanwhile,
down
Laurie,
before.
right. Laurie and Allison argue as she plans to leave, and Allison too blames Laurie for Michael's actions. That night, Corey embarks on a rampage, murdering the bullies after luring them to the salvage yard and accidentally killing his stepfather. The bullies accidentally kill the stepfather, though. He doesn't accidentally kill the stepfather. I liked that guy. I felt bad for him. He was trying to be a good stepfather because his mother was kind of crazy. They haven't mentioned her at all in this summary, but his mother's sort of clingy and overprotective, but also mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she's probably gotten all kinds of shit from the neighbors because her son killed that kid. But the stepfather's very nice, and one of the bullies starts to shoot Corey, and the stepfather steps in between them and gets shot. Then he goes on to kill his mother, as well as a DJ at a local radio station who had taunted him earlier. They were chilling out on top of the radio station. He and Allison were having a date on top of the radio station, like you do.
That
And the guy
seriously,
comes in
okay,
and-
best date I ever had ever was on top of the Scott Theater when there was a Scott Theater. It was. We had
That's
to
right.
climb up the
It's gone
building. Yeah. Yeah, it was very illegal, but it was the first date and it was the coolest fucking date I've ever been on. And yeah, it was on top. So I mean, I'm just saying it could happen.
Was it still, wait, I don't want too many details, but was it still open at the time?
No, it had already like there was like a fire and all that shit.
Oh, okay.
And then
I don't
it was
remember
cool.
there being a fire. I just thought it shut down because of lack of business.
Well, I guess there was a fire because there was a fire hose like flung over the like on the top balcony, like flung over the seats. So we actually swung on the fire hose over like
Oh
the
my
audience
God.
seats. It was so fun.
Jesus Christ.
It was like hands down the most amazing date I've ever been on.
Okay, well, good luck topping that.
Yeah, for real. No kidding. I was like young too, so of course, because I don't trespass in buildings. It's just-
Is that the
But
sign
anyways.
of you getting old? I don't trespass any. Trespassing's a young boy's game. That's a young man's game. At the Strode house, Lori Foe attempts suicide to lure Corey to her. She actually calls the police and reports a suicide and then loads the gun and pretends like she's going to use it, somehow knowing that Corey's out there waiting.
Brilliant.
Because then he comes in and she turns around like, you're a dumbass
You
to
really
think I would have
think,
committed
yeah,
suicide.
you really think I was gonna kill myself? Yeah, me
Yeah,
and Gus
and
were
then
like,
she shoots-
like screaming in the field.
Right. Anyways, it says, whom she shoots down the stairs. Corey then stabs himself in the neck to frame Lori for his death in front of the arriving Allison, which kind of works. She comes in and Lori, like a dumbass, goes over and picks up the knife so that she's standing there with a bloody knife in her hands when Allison comes in. Michael suddenly arrives and kills Corey because he's not quite dead.
Yeah, which I thought this moment of like Corey, because first of all, this was another moment of like pure shock of him just like stabbing himself in the fucking throat to,
Mhm.
you know, like if I can't have her, no one will. But when he like kind
Like,
of
that's
came
not
back
how that
alive,
works.
yeah, seriously, when he came
He
back
does not
alive,
understand.
so when he like kind of isn't dead, I figured that it was like that was because he now had the like Michael Myers paranormal thing because he
Right.
saw into his soul and they were like partners. So now he's like not gonna die even though we kill him every movie kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why Michael now is killing him. Oh, because he stole his mask. That's why he kills him. Can't have that. Can't. It's like, hey, I let you have my mojo and you stole my mask. A fight ensues and Lori manages to pin Michael to the table. She stabs him with a knife in the hand, pinning him to the table. After a struggle, Allison arrives to help subdue and finally kill him. They basically crucify him to the table because they pin his other hand with a knife, break his arm, pin his other hand, and then slit his throat and his wrists. Lori and Allison take his body to the salvage yard by police escort. Totally inappropriate.
Yeah, and also where are all the dead kids?
Oh, I don't know.
They already
Did they ever find them?
no, I mean they would all be
at the
there
salvage
like
yard.
laying
That's
there
right.
dead at
That's
the
right.
salvage yard, but they don't weren't. Everyone like it was just like nothing
That's
ever
right.
happened. I'm like,
There should be
no,
a-
there's a bunch of dead people here. Like, what are we doing?
There should be like a truck with a fence and a girl underneath it.
Yeah, yeah.
But the sheriff, the deputy that she likes, shows up, and then the sheriff himself shows up, and they're all like, "Here's what we're gonna do. This is totally illegal, but fuck it." And they put his body on top of the car and parade it through town, gathering up pretty much the whole fucking town as they go. Take him out to the salvage yard, attracting the residents of Haddonfield, who follow them in a procession and dispose of it in an industrial shredder.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure that we knew that he was dead, dead, dead. It's one of these huge things that you would throw metal into and it would shred it up, I guess, for recycling. And they just
Yeah.
dump his body in there and it grinds it to a pulp. They
Can we
wanted to
just talk
make
about
absolutely sure.
the people of Haddonfield and how bad they suck? Because like remember the last movie when they were all in the hospital scene and they were all like chasing that poor man that wasn't like that was like
Yes.
4 foot tall and like
Mhm.
And now they're all, I don't know. This town is weird. I don't like it. These people are fucked up.
But I think the filmmakers wanted to make it absolutely clear that Michael is dead and there's no way he's coming back. This is definitely him, and his body is destroyed.
But I don't know. I feel like he passed his magic off to what is his name? The kid's name?
Corey?
Yeah,
You want him
Corey.
to throw him in the chipper too, just to be sure.
Yeah, because he went on a psycho rampage that also after he got the magic, and then when he came back alive there at the end after he had been shot and stabbed himself in the throat. That is a very Michael Myers death going on there, okay?
Yeah.
For him to just be completely alive and okay the next movie. And so for him to do that, I was like, oh my gosh, it just felt like he passed the torch, and now it's the granddaughter and this new guy.
And they
I
could
don't
have
know.
done a thing where they come back and then his body's not there, but they didn't. So I think they intend us to believe he is dead as well. In the ensuing days, Allison and Laurie reconcile, and Allison leaves Haddonfield while Laurie finishes her memoir and rediscovers her romance with Deputy Hawkins. The end.
I love her and Deputy Hawkins together. I'm not gonna lie. Ugh, so cute. I want them to bang it out. I really like them together. There's so much tension there. They like each other so much, but there's just so much trauma bonds. Anyway, yeah.
That's Will Patton as the deputy. He's been in all kinds of stuff. You've seen him in things going back to the 80s because he's as old as she is.
So, how many pumpkins are you going to give this movie? What do you think?
I'm giving it 3, just right down the middle. It was okay. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was fine. Again, I don't think this was the right film to start experimenting with the formula. Especially, I think a lot of people after that last scene in the previous movie, they thought it was going to only go up from there, and it didn't. It came down.
Yeah.
We're like, bring it on down now. We're going to bring it on down. We're going to get nice and smooth here.
That's funny. So I'm gonna say 5 pumpkins for me. I loved it. I loved it so much. I enjoyed it so much. The shock and awe of it for me was just so good, and it way exceeded my expectations as far as movies go. I thought it was gonna be kind of like shit. And so there was this interview that I read about the director kind of answering to some backlash, and he did talk about how everyone gets connected to stories, right, in these certain ways, and they take these things, whatever they want from these stories, and they have this emotional connection with those things. And he took those things for him and made them his own. And he's I just really loved how he explained that. And let me see, I think I have the article. It's off of movieweb.com. Halloween Ends director response to negative feedback. If you want to look it up and read it, it's great. But yeah, I really liked it. I just completely loved it. There were some things I didn't like about it. I felt like the whole Michael Myers being weak thing, it really reminded me of the Jeepers Creepers letting people live in the third Jeepers Creepers movie, where it's all of a sudden he's just not as this powerful killing machine. He's just not as strong all of a sudden for absolutely no reason at all. But I do really like everything. There was so many good things and so many surprising moments and little gems that I connected with, that I felt like I didn't give a shit really that Michael was, like I said, I don't really care about this story enough to I was never a fan of Halloween. I really liked Rob Zombie's version that he put out. It's my favorite one. But yeah, next to this one, I would say this one's just as good. It's just a little bit different, and I can understand why, OG fans, just hardcore Halloween fans are fuck this movie. Yeah, totally. I get it. I understand, but agree to disagree, I guess. That's the perks of not being a hardcore fan of something. You're not so emotionally biased that you can enjoy the weird, wacky things. And so, yeah, I loved it. And I'm so glad I did, because there was so much anticipation building up to this movie and this episode, 31 Days of Horror, y'all.
Yes. So we made it through. That's amazing. We'll do it again next year. Thinking of having a theme next year, but I'm not gonna reveal that yet.
I like the idea of the theme, but I feel like on a lot of episodes this year, you've already like planned what movies you're gonna watch with people.
Oh. Well, I'll talk to you about that off mic.
Oh, okay.
We will be back to our regular schedule starting on Saturday with our long-awaited episode of All Monsters Attack. And we have a special interview in that episode with Ron Bonk of SRS Cinema, and we will talk to him about Space Monster Wangmagwi, the long-lost South Korean kaiju movie.
Yay, which we're supposed to get in January?
Yes, possibly sooner, but that's the target date.
Nice.
So join us here for that. Until then, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honey Bee. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Happy Halloweeny.
Yes, happy Halloween. Remember to keep calm and seek shelter in basements.
And please, don't misuse science.
We will not see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Ooh.
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.